Welcome to Take Me Through Your Day. On this episode, we have an ex-bill collector. I've known her for a really long time, and, well, I'm not even going to say that much about it. It was just a really fun episode, and I think you're really going to like it. I'll let it speak for itself. That being said, if you'd like to be on the show, or you know someone who would like to be on the show, you can get at us at TakeMeTYD on all social media, and at TakeMeTYD at gmail.com. Enjoy the show. I don't really want to talk about your job right now so much as I'll get into that later, just because of the contrast. I want to talk about you being a bill collector.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't preface any of this, so we kind of spring it.
Okay.
You were a bill collector for how long?
About 8 years.
8 years. Okay, so I think you could speak to this pretty. Yeah. Okay. So, how did you get into that in the first place?
The guy that I was dating at the time did it. So
okay.
I got a job with him, like through him.
Okay, fair enough. Let's just go through. How old were you when you started?
Oh God. Younger than 21, so I was like 19 or 20.
Okay. And you didn't have to have any kind of like background or anything. It's just kind of an entry-level position?
No schooling at all. I didn't even have a GED.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. What are the hours like? Just put that together first.
They had daylight and night turn shifts, and you could also do an overnight shift because we're on the East Coast and we would call West Coast customers, and because of the 3-hour difference, you could kind of like work overnight to call the people on the West Coast. So shifts would start at like 8 in the morning normally and around 3 or 4, and then the nighttime shift would start 4 or 5 and go until about 11.
And that was the shift you did, the morning one?
I actually did a weird in-between shift. I started at 11 and I got done at like 7 or 8.
Okay.
So some of my hours were night shift hours, and you got paid more for those. You got shift differential.
What is shift differential?
Any hours that you worked past 5 o'clock, you got paid more for.
How much more? Is it like a time and a half thing, or just like a little bit?
It was just a little bit. It wasn't time and a half, but I mean, it was enough that a lot of people wanted to work at night.
Oh, okay.
And because calling people at 8 o'clock in the morning about their bill wasn't really cool. Nobody wanted to really do that.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get into all of that. So in your average day, let's just go through the general beats of the day. What time would you wake up?
Back in that time.
Yeah, let's just stick. I know it was a whole 8-year thing, but let's just go with when you were the most comfortable.
I had to catch a bus at about 7 o'clock to be there at 8. But I didn't start at 11 o'clock, so I needed an hour to get there. So I'd have to catch a bus at about 10 to be on time at 11.
Okay.
So I'd get up at like 9:45 and and run out the door. So.
Is it something you use an alarm for, something like that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just give me a generalization of your morning. Your alarm goes off, and then what?
My alarm goes off. I jump up, put the skirt on that I took off the night before off of my floor.
All right.
Brush my teeth, and run out the door.
There's no like breakfast routine, no coffee, no.
No, I would do that once I got to work. Like I'd run and usually just barely make it to catch my bus, and sit there on the bus and zone out and like try and wake up until I got to work.
All right. Now, when you get there, is this like a break room type scenario, or are you stopping somewhere to get coffee or food, or?
It was a shared building, so downstairs there was a Sbarro's Pizza, and like across the street was Macy's, and there was like a convenience store, and we had a coffee machine in the building, but it was gross. It was like sawdust mixed with water. It was really nasty.
Great.
So I would usually drink that because it was really cheap. But if it was payday, I'd go to Starbucks because it was downtown. So.
Oh, okay. When you get into the building, what's kind of the first action there? Do you have to like punch in, or do you have to go to a desk and?
Yeah, it was a secured building because we called people like in the area. So as soon as a customer found out like where we were, sometimes they would show up to like confront someone that called them. So you had a swipe card. You were never to allow anyone in that didn't have a swipe card. So I would swipe in. As soon as you come in, there's a like card reader that would like clock you in.
Just so I don't forget about that, is that something that happened? Like, do you have any stories about someone showing up?
Oh,
for you personally, or just
not
people?
For me, but
okay.
for like other people, yeah.
Give me some. Tell me a little bit of something.
The best story that I have actually was a reversal. One of like my people called a customer that worked in Market District. What is the
big? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he worked like in walking distance.
Yeah,
and my coworker called him at his job, and like he flipped out on my coworker for calling him at work. So like when he went on his lunch break, like he clocked out on his lunch break and like went down to the guy's job and like beat him up. Like they got into like a fight. Like he got fired.
Wow.
He like came back from his lunch break and like they packed this shit up and he was fired.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, what happened to get? Is there any like build up to that, or is it just general like you're a bill collector, I'm gonna fuck you up?
Yeah, like, and so I guess like he just like snapped and got fed up with people saying that. So my coworker just like went down and beat him up.
Hey.
But that was like the best one. Like he actually like waited for his lunch break and clocked out because we had them like scheduled. So he waited for his scheduled lunch break to go beat this customer up.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good scheduled beating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that a common thing to call people at their place of employment to get money?
Yes, if you give us the phone number, we will call you there. You don't realize that that's why you're putting that phone number on your credit card application, but that's why, so we can call you there.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. I had no
Yeah.
idea. What are, just because we're on the topic, what are some of those kind of tactics, slimy or otherwise, that are ways that you probably wouldn't think of to try to collect money?
For a good few years, I worked back-end collections, and that's accounts that have charged off, so they haven't paid in 210 plus days.
Okay.
So some of the accounts I got, they hadn't paid in 5 years. They didn't even remember that they had this card. So we would do a thing that we called skip tracing, and we had access to, I don't want to say like government listings of people, but we had like what would be on your credit report, like everywhere that you've ever lived and the phone number to that address, everywhere you've ever worked and the phone number there.
That's creepy.
And we could look up like people that have the same last name as you in your neighborhood. Maybe it's your aunt or your cousin, and we could call them and like, hey, this is I'm looking for Pete, and does he live here? Oh no, this is his aunt. Like, oh geez, I'm so sorry. Do you have his number? And,
so you're playing the whole role.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sketchy.
And when I did back-end collections, it wasn't on a dialer system, so there wasn't that like weird pause and then the like beep and you're connected.
Oh, yeah.
It was just me just cold dialing people, so they had no idea that I didn't know Pete. Like,
that's shady. I mean, that does kind of make it exciting a little bit.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like a detective.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I was really good at it. Like, they would sometimes put me on skip tracing all day. That's all I would do, is just skip trace accounts.
You have any stories? Like, I'm kind of fascinated with this now. I didn't know that. What, like, do you have any good stories about that?
I mean, there were like legalities to it. Like, you couldn't call and like lie. Like, if they said like, who is this, or like, where are you calling from, like, you had to tell them. So you had to have like the proper tone of voice to it, and you had to be good at it to like get anywhere with it. So, and not really like good stories, but just like tactics and like doing it for so long. Like, some people were good at it, some people were shit at it, and it's just I happen to be good at it somehow. and you're always forewarned before you start skip tracing. Do not ever, because they keep history of what you skip trace. You are very heavily monitored. Do not ever skip trace a celebrity, the president, any former presidents. Like, you're not allowed to use it for personal use. Like, a guy that I worked with skip traced the president, and the Secret Service was there within an hour.
Wow. Why?
Because it red flagged him. Because you could see.
No, I get why, but I mean, why did he do that? Why did he?
He's stupid. I don't know. He's like, because he didn't believe that like it was actually monitored to that level.
Oh, so
like,
he got the warning, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna try it."
Yeah, I want to see what happens. I'm like, he got deep shit. Like, he definitely got fired after that. I don't know what happened to him.
Wow. And you said like you're being monitored on all this stuff. Is that like doing the skip tracing kind of thing? Do you have to present some kind of warning that the phone is being recorded?
No.
I mean, granted, I know you've been out of it for a while, but isn't that part of the you have to warn people if they're being recorded?
When someone answers the phone, you do not have to say this call is being recorded, because sometimes it's not. It's just someone live, just listening out on your line, making sure you don't say anything too messed up.
Okay, so that's not necessarily. Well, yeah, I mean, this all lives in a very sketchy kind of world.
Yeah, it was really weird. And as time went on, while I was there, rules got a little stricter, because when I first got there, it was all out like Wild West. You could say whatever you wanted to people to get them to give you the phone number. Like, I heard coworkers, like little kids would answer and they would tell them the boogeyman was going to get them if you didn't if they didn't put their mom on the phone.
Wow.
Because people would train their kids to hang up on us.
Oh, but yeah, you don't hang up on the boogeyman.
Yeah, because he knows where you live.
Yeah, he means business.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, you would have to make sure to tell the kid their address before you said the boogeyman was going to come get them. Because, like, I don't know where you live, kid. Like,
oh, it's going to be so fun. Personify the boogeyman.
Yeah. And then, like, the kid gets all upset, so their mom or dad gets on the phone because they want to know who's making their kid cry. And they, gotcha. Like, pay your bill.
Oh, man. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have a million more questions like that. But let's get back into the day. You get to your desk. Now what?
If it was a normal day and I wasn't skip tracing, I had my own queue of accounts. Nobody called them but me. And it was just a sheet of paper that I kept locked in my desk because it had their account number and everything on it. And, like, they were my people. So it was a list of, like, 300 people. And nobody called them to collect but me. And it was cold calling. So I wasn't on a dialer system. So, like, they'd answer the phone and, oh, hey, Susan, it's like, remember last week you said you'd have the money on Wednesday? Like, guess what today is, Susie? It's Wednesday.
Oh, okay, so you're building kind of a rapport with these people.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Like, some of them, like, if they were open to it, like, I could get that way with them, that, like, they would answer the phone and hear my voice and, oh, hey, like, how's it going? Blah, blah, how's the weather in Pittsburgh? And, like...
I imagine that there's
bullshit for a minute, like
that's probably a much better way to get money out of someone. You having a relationship with them, as opposed to just some random person being like, "Hey, pay up." You know?
Yeah, sometimes it was good and sometimes it was bad because they could kind of take advantage of your niceness and the rapport that you had.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So I would just start like calling my list, and I knew when like this person was home, and I knew when this person was at work, and like things like that. You kept like notes on your people, so you knew when to call them to catch them. And if you had a bad account, you could ask someone that was a more senior collector to call them for you because they were a little more seasoned. They knew a little better how to get through. And when I first started, I had a guy make me cry. The only time I ever had a customer make me cry, like, he answered the phone and he just, like, tore into me. Like, called me, like, taught me swear words. Like, it was bad. And we had an Irish exchange program where we bring people over from Ireland to work on a work visa. And the guy that sat, like, catty corner cubicle from me, like, heard me get upset, and he knew I was new and I was young, and so he like looked over my cubicle and he was like, do you want me to call him? And I said, yeah, I can't call him again, like, would you please call him? And he called the guy, and the guy immediately hung up as soon as he said hello. So he called him right back, which is illegal.
I was gonna say, okay.
Yeah, called him right back. The guy answered, hung up. called him right back.
Wow.
And the guy answered and like, what the fuck do you want? I'm eating dinner. And he, quick as could be, said, well, if it's anything more than ramen, you're living beyond your means. I'm like, oh shit. Like, all right. And like, he tore this guy a new one and he paid his bill. Like, he made it.
He actually paid?
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
yeah. Yeah, he tore this guy up. Like,
that's awesome. That's gotta feel good too.
Yeah.
Pull out a victory like that.
But then like that became his account. Like I pushed it over to him because I couldn't handle the guy. So he in turn like got credit for the payment, and like that was then his problem to call this guy. So it was weird. Like you could trade off. Like, I'm just not getting anywhere with this guy. Will you try?
Okay,
if they got somewhere with him, they could keep him.
Okay, and that's not something you have to like run through a supervisor. You can literally just trade back and forth.
Yeah, you could swap.
That's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah, that's something. And do you get anything for getting someone to pay up or close an account or cross someone off the list?
Yeah, there were monthly incentives that went from like $100 up to $1,000, depending on how much you collected and how well you did against your peers. Like they would send out like every few days, I forget how often it was, but they would send out stats of like everybody on the floor so you could see like where you were.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It made it like competitive, so you were like against other people. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it almost took the humanity out of collecting because it was just like the dollars. Like, oh, look where I am. I'm like 2 steps above Jim. Like, and like, oh, is he gonna catch up to me? And like.
And that's how it's all calculated, by the dollar, not by the amount of accounts.
Right.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, the dollar amount you bring in is all they cared about. Mm-hmm. Like the one supervisor used to say it all the time: we're a business, not a charity. Like he would tell us, like, you got somebody that's not paying, tell them to start having a yard sale. Tell them to clear out their attic. Like, what do you got to do? And I'm like, I am not going to tell this woman crying on the phone to me right now that like can't feed her kids to go have a yard sale to pay her credit card. Like,
cheer up, come on, yard sale, let's go. Wow. So you said you have like 300 people you go through, and you get like a new sheet every day, every week, every month.
Basically, once you like exhausted your list, they would start like giving you new people.
Well, so, I'm trying to get to the how often. Like, can you literally have your 300 people and slowly just start checking off and checking off and checking off?
Yeah.
Or does that 300 just get replenished as soon as you cross someone off, someone else gets on the page?
Right. If you're not getting anywhere with somebody, like if I skip trace an account and I don't get any good phone numbers, and I've sent out a letter every other day and they haven't gotten in contact with us, then that account just like gets dropped and they fill in with another one. So like if the person is unreachable or nobody has answered the phone when I call for like 2 straight weeks and they don't call back in, you just get rid of it. It's wasted time. Like, so
swap it out. I mean, do they just throw those all in a pile and like give them to someone else like down the line? It's like their expertise to deal with these type of people.
We keep them, and then like when there's a day where all I'm doing is skip tracing, sometimes that account will come back up. Like I'll recognize it and like, oh, there's that account that I dropped, so I'll skip trace it again and see if I get anywhere. But they wouldn't like pass it immediately on to another person. They just kind of like throw it in the bin and leave it there for a little while.
Just throw it in the mix and it'll come around when it comes around.
See if we could get any information in a month or so.
Fair enough. So that's something. Now the company that you work for, do they buy the debt themselves? Are they taking on that debt and that's why they're having you collect? Or do they work for a company to collect on behalf of them?
Both.
Okay.
We were a bank, so we had our own credit cards that were like from us that we collected on, and we would also buy other companies' debts to collect on for them. So we had a mix. We collected on a lot of catalog accounts, like remember like Spiegel and Newport News catalogs, like
the ones that like old people.
Yeah, old people and teachers. Yeah. Well, they went out of business and closed everybody's accounts and sold them to us to collect on now that everybody's account was closed.
Nice.
So we would have people that paid every single month, like pay their remaining balance off, and then we had a ton of people that were, fuck you close my account, like,
oh, so you're saying, like, these people were in good standing, but all of a sudden you acquired the debt, and now you're like, hey, paid in full, let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, this is credit card processing calling you about your Spiegel account, and they're like, well, who the hell are you? Like, I'm not giving you any money. It's like, no, we bought your Spiegel account, it's closed, like, it's ours now. And they're like, that sounds sketchy, I'm not giving you my
It does sound sketchy. I don't think I'd
and
deal
we,
with that.
like, letters were sent out, but, like, who opens, like, a random letter from credit card processing? Nobody.
Yeah.
So that was a whole big, like, it took about 6 months to, like, ease all these new customers into, like, trusting us on who we were.
That sounds like a big problem. And then I started thinking, like, oh, they probably bought those accounts for, like, pennies on the dollar or something like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
It sucked, but it was,
hey, they're making money.
We worked through it, yeah.
Whatever. All right, so back into your day. You get sidetracked a lot here.
Yeah.
You're at your desk. You have your list. Take me through a little bit of your day. How are the next few hours getting spent?
I would have my list. You were allowed to have a radio at your desk, and as long as the monitor that was, like, listening in on your calls couldn't hear it, it was cool. At whatever volume it was at. Like,
nice.
You had to, like, keep it at a certain volume, and, like, it couldn't be obscene or, like, disturb the people around you. So, turn my radio on, I'd have my coffee, and I would just start calling my accounts. I would just go through my list and see who I could call first. And I would, like, get through, like, a chunk of, okay, I could call these people, like, 11 to 1. And then at, like, 1 o'clock, I would go through my accounts that I needed to skip trace or that I haven't gotten in touch with yet. Do those for a couple hours.
Okay. What's, just on average, the success rate in your average day?
And my average day,
yeah,
personally,
just say, you're going 11 to 1. What's the likelihood you're going to get money?
Pretty low. I wasn't good at it. I made incentive maybe twice in the 8 years I was there. So yeah, I wasn't good at it.
Well, you still managed to keep your job for 8 years.
Yeah, I was really good at the behind the scenes stuff. I was good at the skip tracing and, like, the organization of things. Like, all of my, like, notes were really, like, proper and thorough. Like, all my accounts were really good in that sense. They just weren't paying.
So you just call in a chat like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, that's what a lot of them turned into, and they would take them off of me.
Oh.
Because they weren't paying.
Oh, we noticed you're having too good a time and they're not paying anything. We have to take this away from you.
You had a call that lasted an hour yesterday, and we don't see that you collected any money off of them. Like, I had a lot of those.
That's great. Do you have any, like, I don't know, good interactions that stick in your head?
I don't. It was really, like, a lot of elderly people that were just, like, bored and lonely.
Oh, they were just happy to get a phone call.
Yeah, okay. They were just excited that I would call them. So, like,
all right.
I mean, that's pretty much what it was, and it would be like Gertrude on SSI, and she's like a widow and just bored.
All right.
And really, really hard to get off the phone. Like, you know, when, like, an old person traps you in conversation in person, how hard that is on the phone.
Oh, yeah, you can't walk away on the phone.
Yeah, and that was one of our biggest rules. You're never allowed to hang up on a customer, no matter what they're saying to you, no matter how nasty they're being, or how nice they're being.
Really?
You're not allowed to hang up on somebody.
That was my next thought. As soon as they said you can't walk away, I was like, well, you can hang up the phone.
No.
No, you can't hang up the phone.
Not allowed. Yeah.
All right, that's
she had
something.
to find someone. If it was, like, Trudy and she's being, like, way too nice, you have to, like, find a way, like, all right, well, I got another call coming in, and I've been waiting on this person to call me back, so I gotta go. Like, that was my big, like, get off the phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have it, like, specific go-tos like that, like, all right, I got another
my
call
other
coming
line
in.
is ringing.
Yeah, I mean, that works.
Like, I have a meeting I gotta go into. I'm like, I never had a meeting. Like, I wasn't that important. Like, but I would just make it up. Like, she doesn't know.
All right. Well, as far as the bill collecting itself, did you have, like, tactics? Did you have a script they wanted you to stick to? Do you have, like, beats that you needed to read out? Or
you didn't really have, like, a script. so much like you had to hit like certain points. If you did get the person on the phone, they identified like, I am John Smith. I'm like, oh, well, John Smith, I'm calling about your Spiegel account. There was certain information that you had to give them during the course of the phone call. You had to let them know what their balance was right now. You had to let them know what their amount due was, what their due date is, how many days delinquent they are. And you had to have them say their address and phone number to you, verify it.
Huh.
Like, all right, and before I let you go, John, can you just verify your mailing address and your phone number for me? Like,
okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, like they had to hear the customer say it just to verify that it was correct. And it was so hard to get them to do that.
I bet.
Because they're already pissed off at you, and you're like, all right, well, recite your address and your phone number for me before we hang up. Like, it was kind of stupid.
Now, the giving out the due date and the amount or the time delinquent and all that stuff, is that something that you just have conversationally with them, or is that like you gotta do that robot voice where you're just rattling off all that stuff just to get it all out?
Both.
Oh.
Like sometimes I could like work it into the way that we were speaking in our conversation. Other times I would just have to like talk over them, almost like yell it at them. Your balance is this, your amount due is this, you're this many days delinquent, your next due date is this.
All right.
And then their rant would just be continuing. They didn't even hear me say it, but I said it out loud. The monitor heard me say it, and that was good enough for me. Like, so it was like really awkward. It was like yelling nonsense at somebody that's mad at you. Like, it was really weird.
All right. Do you have breaks or anything like that?
Yeah, you had scheduled breaks. You had 2 15-minute breaks at any point during the day, and you had a half-hour lunch that you had to clock out for. The 15 minutes you didn't.
Oh, okay, cool.
So you could lump it all together and like disappear for an hour if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But your 15-minute breaks, they kind of wanted those to include your bathroom time, but it didn't have to.
Can you break the 15 minutes up?
No, the 15 minutes was a lump.
Oh, so you couldn't do 5 and 5 and 5?
No. But you could be gone from your desk for like 2 minutes. So if you really had to pee and you didn't want to use your 15 minutes, you could like run to the bathroom and run back. And
so how is that monitored? How do they keep track?
For that was through our dialer system, which I wasn't on for the majority of the time that I was there because I did back-end calls. Mm-hmm. But if you weren't on back-end calls, you were on a dialer system that was constantly on. So you had to like sign out of it for your 15 minutes or your half hour. So they really knew how long you were gone. Okay. But I wasn't on the dialer system, so I got up whenever I felt like it.
Huh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so lunch, half hour. Assuming, since you said 11 to 1, you take it lunch around 1?
Yeah, usually like around 1 or 2.
Okay, now, do you have a cafeteria type situation? You going out? You packing a lunch?
We had a cafeteria, and our building moved from Smithfield Street to Station Square. Mm-hmm. So I didn't usually eat. I would just chain smoke 3 cigarettes. And like look at stuff on my phone because like it was so stressful. Like you didn't really want to eat. Like I could see that. It would get you like so worked up that it was hard to like settle down and like eat a meal. Mm. So I would just get a cup of coffee and just like sit outside and people watch because it was downtown. So
yeah, fair enough.
And just smoke as many cigarettes as I could before my half hour was up.
All right, so back into work. What I know you mentioned it before, but when is the end of the day? When are you done?
Because it wasn't like restaurant work, you didn't have any like side work that you had to do. So at 11, you swipe and clock out and you're done.
You said 11?
At the end of my day?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 10 or 11.
Oh, that's right.
The end of my shift. Like, because I started at 11 or 12. So yeah, my shift was over around like 10 or 11. I remember. Oh. It was over at drinking time. Like it was over like around 10 or 11 that it was like an acceptable time to go straight to the bar. So yeah.
Okay. That works. Is there anything else to... I'm trying to go through more of your day. It just I could never do this job, but what else is going on?
We used to play games to keep our sanity. Like, we would, like, sit around and, like, think of, like, funny things to do over our phone calls. You were allowed to put on a fake accent as long as you didn't break it.
I like that.
So if you called somebody with a fake accent, you had to keep it up the entire phone call. You weren't allowed to let them know you were, like, goofing on them. So as long as the customer didn't know you were goofing on them, you were allowed to do that. You were allowed to, like, put on a voice or, like, a fake accent. Like, that was really fun. But, like, you would, like, warn your coworkers that you were about to do it, because they would all, like, meerkat up and look if you, like, did, like, a weird voice and didn't warn them beforehand. So, like, you couldn't laugh. So, like, all through this phone call, like, if they caught you and, like, you broke, like, character... It was like an SNL when they, like, lose it. So you would have to, like, mute your call and, like, you'd be crying laughing while this person is, like, yelling at you or asking you questions. Like, all your coworkers around you are, like, pissing their pants. Like... And you'd have to, like, get back on and, like, get this character back up to, like, keep it going. Because you'd get in a lot of trouble if you broke character.
Oh, that's so great. The pressure's on. You can't I love it.
So it made it, like, really fun. We would see how many Skittles you could fit in your mouth before the customer knew you had a mouthful of candy.
Okay. What's the record? Who won?
Oh, God, I don't even know. Like, they're, like... It was almost like a squirrel. Like, I remember my one coworker could, like, fill his cheeks and, like, keep talking.
That's great.
But eventually you'd have to, like, mute and, like, throw up all these Skittles into your garbage can to be able to, like, talk. And, like, you knew, like, which coworker had, like, the fifth of Jack locked in their, like, bottom drawer. So, like... swing past, like, hold your coffee cup out, like, bloop, 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 and, like, that made your day a little better, like...
That'll do it.
Yeah, there's, like, all kinds of, like, goofy shit that we would do and, like, somehow get away with it. Like, my one coworker used to tell, like, if the customer was a woman, you would get, like, the spouse that always wanted information. Like, husbands always wanted to know, like, what was going on, and, like, you can't tell them. Like, it's against the law. Like, if it's his wife's account, you can't tell the husband all about it.
Even if they're married?
His account.
They have nothing to...
Nope.
Okay.
And that used to drive them nuts. So he would call and he'd be, hey, is Susan there? And, like, the husband is like, who is this? Oh, just tell her it's Super Dave. He's like, what? Just tell her it's Super Dave calling. like, what? Like... That's
great.
So, and he could do that. Like... And, oh man, they'd get pissed off. Like, and, like, he would, like, ask the husband, like, well, where'd she go? Did she go grocery shopping or work? And, like, and the husband's, like, not knowing where he was going with this. So she went grocery shopping. Are you sure? Was she wearing heels when she left the house? Like, holy shit, dude! Like,
that's so evil.
Did she bring the kids with her? Like, he would, like, ask them, like, yeah, like... Just to, like, get a rise out of him, just to, like, mess with him because he's bored.
That's what I mean. If I was stuck in a job like that, I would absolutely do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I told you about it the once... when was it? I got a job interview at one of these places, and I got hired. I went through the orientation. It was about an hour or something. I sat down at one of those desks. I said... I gotta go to the bathroom, I'll be right back. And I immediately called you like, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I didn't last a minute at that job. Totally, it was a different place, and it was years later, but I totally forgot about that until right now. Like, oh yeah, that sucked.
It's
bad.
Not for everybody.
No.
It's
not. I punched out real quick.
Like, I did, like, I feel like I did a lot of damage to people's lives that I never... had to, like, experience. Like, I know for a fact I caused at least one divorce.
Really? Tell me the story.
A wife or a husband could get information on an account if they were an authorized user.
Okay.
So you could have a secondary user on your account,
Mm-hmm.
and that person could call in for information.
Of course.
And I had a wife call in that was at the grocery store, and she was an authorized user on the credit card, and she called in and she said, and she was real mad. She was like, I'm in line at the grocery store. This credit card has hundreds of dollars available on it, and I know for a fact it does. Like, I checked the balance recently, and it's declining me, and this is so embarrassing, and this is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in a grocery store with a cart full of groceries. Like, what's going on here? And I'm like, well, ma'am, the account's overdrawn $60. And she, what do you mean? What was purchased? And it was like a jewelry store, a hotel, like Victoria's Secret, flowers. I'm like, I have to tell her all this, and she has no idea. Like, and I have to.
Well, I think she has an idea.
No, she was pissed at me because she thought we did something. Like, she thought there was something wrong with the card.
So she didn't have an idea.
She had no idea the account was overdrawn and what was purchased. And it was her husband, and he, like, maxed out and overdrew the account on some other woman. Like, none of this was for her, and she just started, like, bawling and hung up on me. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Like, do I call her back? Like, do I make sure she's okay? Like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, you
like,
just stirred up some shit.
Yeah, it was real awkward. So, yeah, authorized users suck. Like, I never liked doing that because then you had to, like, tell on whoever spent the money. Like,
hey, fuck him. It's his fault.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't feel bad for him at all.
No.
Like, but it made the job awkward. Like,
Oh, I bet. And 8 years of that. I mean, I imagine there's, I know I just kind of sprung this whole thing on you, but, like, I hate to be that guy. It's like, what else you got? But I know you got some more. What else you got?
Oh, jeez. Aside from, like, the actual job, our Christmas parties were always really, really fun.
Ooh, go into
because
that.
for the first 5 years I was there, it was an open bar, and we had Irish exchange workers.
Mm-hmm.
So it would always be at, like, a really fancy hotel downtown, completely open bar, top shelf, bottom shelf, whatever you wanted, as much as you wanted, and Irish exchange workers. Like, it was a mess. The one year, my friend James, who's one of the Irish guys, and we called him Jims because of his accent, the way he said his name, he hit on the head of the company's wife, like the owner of the company. Like, he could buy and sell you. Like, he hit on his wife, went in the bathroom, puked all over the bathroom, was asked to leave the party, and woke up the next day in a snowbank in the parking lot of the hotel missing a shoe. And, like, came back to work. Like, he didn't get fired. Like, he still worked there for a while after that. Like,
hey, what happens at the Christmas party?
Has to stay at the Christmas party because it was just a mess. Like, it was
that's great.
And you couldn't understand any of them once they got drinking because their accents got real strong. And I'm absolutely sure I was propositioned more than once and agreed to it, not knowing, because, like, they'd be talking, and all of a sudden their arms around you, and then they're talking, and then you're walking somewhere to, oh, wait, I'm not leaving the party with you. What did you just ask me? Like, so that was always fun.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
All right, so, I mean, unless you have anything else to add, we can move on to what you do now.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I think that's a pretty good window into what you did back in those days.
Yeah.
Now, in sharp contrast, now what do you do? You don't have to give me the name of the place, but, like, just, you know.
I am a prep cook at a restaurant.
Yes. Very different.
Yes.
Very different.
Yes, very, very different.
Okay, now we'll just run through this real quick. Just,
all right.
You know, for the sake of running through it. What time do you wake up now?
5 a.m.
5 a.m. You catch a bus when?
6.
Okay, so when do you have to get there?
7.
And when does it open?
11.
Okay, so you got all kinds of, like, alone time to start prepping stuff. All right.
Yeah, it's basically like to my own devices. If you're not a self-starter, if you're not self-motivated, you cannot do this job.
All right.
Because there's no one there watching over you. I'm the only person at the restaurant for 2 hours. And after that, the person that comes in at 9 is not a higher up. They're not there to, like, watch over me. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah, they got their own thing going on.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, give me some of the rundown of what you're doing.
I usually get there at about 6:30 with the way my bus works, because I can't eat at 5 in the morning, and I have, like, medicines to take with food in the morning. So I usually try to get to work with enough time to, like, make myself a cup of tea and eat something to get something in my stomach. And then I'll usually clock in at 6:30, like, when I get there, because I'm early and there's always shit to do, at least for me. Like, other people will stand around board. I'm never standing around board. There's always something to do because I am the only prep cook. I work 3 days a week, and when I'm not there, the list builds up. So
well, yeah, and it's a restaurant. There's always something to do. So what are your kind of...
I get there at 6:30. I, like, open the restaurant. I turn on all the lights. There's a train about to get fast.
That's fine. I know what a train is.
I turn on all the lights. I turn on, like, the steam table for the soup. I turn on the vent above the stove. I turn on the oven. Turn on the coffee maker. I open the back door because we get food delivery orders before the restaurant even opens, so they just, like, leave it at the back door, and it's just cases and cases of food and paper goods and frozen goods and bread, and I have to bring all that in, like, carry it in, and there's a list that I, like, check off that each item was there. If there are any substitutions, like, I approve that, or call the company and have them come pick it up and wait for what we actually ordered. And I put everything away, like, where it's supposed to go. Everything in there is organized chaos. I know where everything is. Most of the other co-workers don't, because they don't put it away. I do. Yeah. So yeah, that takes a good at least hour to bring everything in, organize it, check it in.
When the delivery guys come and you're there and the door's open, do they at least bring it in at that point? Or
they'll bring it in. Right. Yeah,
good.
Like, it's like, they're usually, like, really nice guys, or just, and so it's hey, how you doing? Leave that over there, and
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What are some of the? I mean, it's an American restaurant, right?
Yes.
American fare. What are some of the things you're prepping? Just give me just a quick rundown.
In the morning, I'm juggling as many things as I possibly can to get it done. So I will start soups, which are in, like, 4-gallon pots, like, very big pots. And I usually have 4 soups going at once. And I'm roasting vegetables, cooking chicken, and cooking bacon in the oven. And I'm making salad bases for what we serve out of the cafe, and I'm slicing deli meat.
Okay, so you're prepping everything, basically.
Yeah, I'm juggling all of those things with timers and temps and thermometers, and I'm setting up the bar, which means everything that we use throughout the day to cook on the grill is in a refrigerated bar with, like, pans of each item, like pans of turkey, pans of tomatoes, pans of lettuce. So I have to fill in the bar, and everything has its own little place where it goes. So I have to remember, like, where everything goes.
That's weird bar. That the cooks aren't doing. That seems like something that you do for yourself. You set up your station and you know, make sure everything's full. It doesn't seem like it'd be your job.
Well, I wear different hats throughout the day, so I could be the grill cook at some point during the day.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like, well, if I have to go on the grill at some point today, I'm kind of sort of setting this up for me. So I always set it up as if it's for me. Okay. So whoever's cooking on the grill really likes the 3 days that I'm there, because even if I don't go over to the grill,
everything's nice.
Yeah, I set it up real nice. Everything's stocked. There's backup, and it's set.
It's way to be. Better for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And they replenish themselves throughout the day. Like if they run out of tomatoes, they'll get their own tomatoes. So
yeah, obviously. What's your shift like there? You said you get in at 6:30.
Yeah.
What time are you done?
3.
At 3. Okay, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Do you have like a sanctioned lunch break, or is it just eat when you can?
No. I don't have. It says on the schedule that I have a half-hour lunch break. I've never taken it.
That sounds like a restaurant to me.
Because I'd rather work through my break to get done what I need to get done. Like in the morning, I just walk around the restaurant and make a list of what I need to prep. Nobody does that for me. Nobody could do it for me. No. So I walk around and like what I need to do, I am accountable for figuring out. Are we low on roasted veggies? Does a turkey breast need sliced? Like how much bacon do we have? Like I have to keep track of all of that and be on top of it. If we run out of bacon in the middle of lunch rush, it's my ass. So like I don't take a break because I make sure to get my list done in the amount of time that I'm supposed to. Very rarely do I have to stay over, but that's also why I juggle so many things, because if I'm not done with my list at 3, I stay till 4 to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, given that you just mentioned all of these things that you have to do and keep all of that in your head, what is the happiness index from doing this versus collecting on debts?
This job at the restaurant makes my OCD very, very happy.
Okay.
Like I love the like organization of it and that it's my work. Like I'm keeping track of everything. I'm keeping track of the temperatures of everything. I'm the one that made the soup. I'm the one that it's all on me. Like a lot of people wouldn't like that kind of pressure, but I really like it because it's my work. I'm the one accountable. So something turns out really good, like that's my fault. Like, and so it's kind of nice. Like I had a coworker today tell me that one of our other coworkers came in yesterday just to eat, and he asked who made the white turkey chili in the morning, and she blah 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 made it, and he was like, oh, I don't want any because makes it the best. Like, so I'm not gonna eat any today, and I'm like, oh, thanks for telling me that. Like. So, like, it feels, there's a, like, sense of, like, accomplishment there and, like, pride in what you're doing. Like, you made that. Like, if it's no good, it's on you. So.
No, that's fantastic. And that's another reason why I wanted to do both of these things at once. Because, I don't know, I think people look at certain things on paper and think one's more adult than the other. Like, you were a bill collector. You worked in an office. You had to wear business attire, right?
Yes.
Something like that. You had to, dress the part. And now you're working at a restaurant, and what it looks like versus what it is psychologically, I mean, that's a big part of what I want to do with this podcast, is show that, like, just because, I don't know, I don't really know where I was getting with that, but the point is that you're happier doing something like this, and, it
very much so.
Different jobs for different people, and sometimes it takes a lot to get to there. Yeah, like, how did you even transition from, like, what got you into a restaurant?
I think really my age. Like, a lot of restaurants will hire younger people. Like, it's much harder to get into, like, a businessy job when you're young. So I just kind of got into restaurants, and I worked at restaurants before I worked at the credit card place, and then after the credit card bill collecting, I just kind of like eased back into working at restaurants because it's where I'm comfortable.
Weren't you like a waitress before that? Okay, well, I mean that's very different as well, being a waitress versus working in the kitchen.
I prefer what I do right now over any other job I've ever had. Like, I can actually say, like, I enjoy going to work. Like, no one wants to get up at 5 a.m. to do anything. But I don't mind it because I like what I do. Like, I enjoy my job.
Well, that's what I was getting at when I was meandering there, is personality types. It's you found something that fit, and that's, I think, what we're all looking for. Yeah. Eventually, it's just finding something that makes you happy, even if it's waking up at 5 a.m. and making soup.
Yeah, like, I'm the oldest person at my job, except for the owners, by, like, 10 years. Like, I work with everyone that I work with is like college students, because this isn't their career. This is their like make some money on the side kind of job. And like a lot of them don't know how old I am, which is like whatever.
Yeah,
but like
nice.
it's kind of funny, like, because I found my like little place there, and it's with like a bunch of college students. Like,
now, because it's college students, I imagine there's a lot of turnover.
yes.
So is that fun? Is that a perk for the job that you get to meet new people, or does it suck because you constantly have to train new people?
I have a really hard time with names and faces anyways. So the high turnover kind of works to my benefit, because I don't even have to try to remember your name or your face, like, because you're probably going to be gone in a week. And because I work in the back with prep, I don't come in contact with, like, if you work front of the house, I usually don't have more than like 2 interactions with you before you're gone. So
nice.
It doesn't make a difference to me who's out there, because my work and my job is just that, it's mine. Like, so whatever you're doing out front doesn't have anything to do with me and doesn't affect me at all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Everybody,
So
it all
nice.
works out.
Yeah.
It all works out.
Yeah, the only time they interact with me is if we're like low on turkey and they think that I don't know. They'll come back and say, hey, we only have 2 pans of turkey left. Like, all right, thanks for letting me know. Like, I'll get on that next. It was on my list, but I didn't realize it was so urgent. Like, you must have had a catering or a lot of people come in, and I didn't realize. So that's really the only time I would have to interact with front of the house.
And that's not much of an interaction,
Yeah.
so who cares? All right, so, I mean, we kept that one kind of short, but I'd say that gives you the general idea. Anybody can get into a restaurant if that's what they want to do. It's something to...
Yeah, like,
I mean, granted,
that's the gist of my job. And I started at front of the house.
That was my next question, is how did you climb up the rungs to have so much responsibility on yourself?
Yeah, I started at front of the house as a cashier, because that's what I did at my other job. I worked 2 jobs when I started here, and I was a cashier at the other one, so they put me cashier at this place. And then they like kind of like eased me into the back. Like, they started having me do like a couple things here and there, and then their prep cook was leaving, and they just like randomly called me one day, and they were like, hey, you up for the responsibility of doing this? Like, and you have to be really serious. Like, don't say yes and you can't handle it in a week. Do you want to do this? So I said yes, because it was a pay raise and it was getting me away from the public, which I was sick of dealing with. And I trained for like a week, and then I was the prep cook. I came in one day and I was the only person there, and I had to make soup. Like,
all right. I mean, a good way to climb up the ladder, especially with something with high turnaround, is just continue to be there.
Exactly. Like, that's the hardest thing that they have, and the hardest thing that they have finding in an employee is reliability. Like, you have to be on time. You have to show up. Like, that's the biggest part of the battle. Like, just show up. Yeah. Like, we'll tell you what to do. We'll give you things to do. Just be a body here for us to boss around.
Exactly.
That's all we need.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. Well, that wraps that up. Let's go through I just have some random questions here. Just the fun stuff, just to wrap it up. And feel free to skip something if you want to skip something.
Pass.
Yeah, pass. I'm just going to go through them real quick here. Breakfast. What do you usually have for breakfast?
Oats, like oatmeal, or one of our baked goods that we make in-house at the restaurant, depending on whether I'm happy or depressed that morning. That kind of decides how healthy or not I go.
When you say baked goods, you mean like cookies or like a scone or something breakfasty?
Sweets, like cookies, lemon bars, brownies. Like,
excellent breakfast. I love it.
Yeah. It's fat, sugar, butter,
why not?
Flour. Like,
it's a great
so
way
it's
to
in a pancake.
Start the day. What's the best advice you ever got? And it's the other thing with these questions, you don't have to think about it too hard. Just kind of whatever pops in your head.
I don't know. Like,
it doesn't have to be work related either. It can just be life advice in general.
There is no such thing as lazy girl, only girl who don't try.
I like that. Where did that one come from?
Shite. you.
Oh, she's the best. She's my white whale. I gotta get her on the show.
Basically saying like, put some makeup on, you hungover ugly girl. Like that was basically her way of saying like, don't show up to work looking a mess. Put a little effort in.
She's the best. I love her. And
that's it works. If you're in a like industry where you get tips, put a little lipstick on. Like it works. It's sad, but it works. Like
what movie do you think you've seen the most?
It's Such a Beautiful Day.
Oh, the cartoon?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's your biggest fear?
Something happening to my child.
Okay, I'll give you that one. Candy. You can have any kind of candy in the world. What do you want?
Ooh. Recently, Midnight Milky Way.
Okay, is that the Milky Way that's dark chocolate?
Yes.
Okay. Whatever floats your boat. Do you have a childhood hero?
My dad's mom.
Okay. Grandma.
Yeah.
Good answer. What kind of soap do you use?
Beekman's 1809 goat's milk soap.
All right. Very specific. Haven't heard that one before. I like it. What's the last pic you took with your phone? Yeah, you don't have to show me. Just like give me what do you think it is? My
son biting into an entire head of frozen cabbage.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it. You have a big pet peeve? Something come to mind?
Chewing.
Oh, fucking hate
any kind of chewing.
Ugh.
Even with your mouth closed, if you have like a clicky jaw, or you're like eating something crunchy, it makes me want to like end myself. Like I cannot handle it.
That's see, I didn't even think of it until you said the crunchy thing. I'm thinking about people in the movie theater just like munching. It's like, oh, are you for real eating right now during this part?
Even if you're chewing with your mouth closed, you could still like hear the like crunch or the squish or the rit. I don't like people eating. But I love to feed people, so it's horrible.
Here, take this food and get the fuck out of here and eat it.
Yeah, go eat it somewhere else and come back and tell me how good it was.
Okay, what type of music do you prefer and why? You get weird. Go ahead and get weird. I don't mind.
Well, it's sad bastard music.
That sounds about right.
Because it's me. I have a constant bass note of sadness going through me. No matter how happy I am or excited I am, it's always tinged with sad. So that kind of music is always appealing to me at any given moment.
All right, that's a good answer. Spicy? Not spicy?
Spicy.
Good. What's the hardest time you ever laughed? Again, don't dig too deep. Just whatever pops in your head.
What's her name?
What?
What's her name? Eating a cheese sandwich.
Oh. Talking about the lead singer of Waxahachie eating a non-grilled cheese sandwich. Just
just the fact she looks like she eats cold cheese sandwiches.
I don't know why that's so funny, but it's so funny. She's so adorable.
Well, that's why. It's such a soft, unassuming food.
It's so gross, though. Ugh. Moving on. You have a tipping custom?
Always more than I think they expect.
Yeah, I like that. That works. Someone gave you $1,000 right now. What would you do with it?
Ooh. God. Put it in savings for as long as I could.
That works. What if I gave your 18-year-old self $1,000? What would she do with it?
Ooh.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
God, 18-year-old self, what was I doing? I my 18-year-old self would have bought her boyfriend at the time a lot of heroin, and then probably went out and bought herself a lot of candy and makeup.
Yeah, that speaks volumes. I love it. That's an excellent answer. You have a favorite vegetable?
Potato.
Mm-hmm. I knew that was coming. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I'd like to be an artist. I'd like to be doing something artistic within 10 years' time that actually makes me money.
Okay.
And be like financially comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable.
Comfortable is a nice goal. I think we all kind of want to be comfortable.
To not count change,
mm-hmm.
to buy anything.
Yeah, exactly. I know you don't drink anymore, but do you have a cocktail preference when you were drinking?
Whiskey and ginger ale. Double whiskey and ginger ale, no matter where I was ordering it. If it was my first time at that place, a double whiskey and ginger ale.
Mm-hmm. What's something you wish you learned earlier?
That taking care of your body is really important. Like self-care and like self-preservation is way more important than you ever believe until the things that you did catch up to you. And you can't do anything about them at that point. You've done the damage. For like my younger self to believe when an older person said to me, oh, don't do that, or oh, you should wear this kind of shoe, and you're like, get the fuck out of my face. Yeah, I wish I would have listened to that. Like,
okay, that's good advice. Definitely good advice. What kind of toothpaste do you use?
Sensodyne.
Okay. Is there anything you'd change about yourself? Just you can snap your fingers and it'd be different.
My addictive personality.
Okay. That's a good answer. Let's see. You have any, like, sleeping rituals? Like, what do you do before bed? How do you get to sleep?
Before bed, I brush my teeth. I wipe my makeup off. And that's I don't have much of a routine anymore, but I'll get into like ruts of like doing like the same thing for a long time. Like recently, when I go to bed at night, I'll put on It's Such a Beautiful Day on repeat. Yeah. So it's on when I go to sleep, and it's on when I wake up, and it's been playing the whole time I've been asleep.
All right.
So that's it. I don't know. It's like a comforting thing.
No, I like it. It's like a teenage celebrity crush.
Ooh.
Good. Spill. Let's hear it. I know there's a whole bunch in there.
Yeah, that my head just flooded with all kinds of weird, handsome men.
Let's have it.
As a teenager,
young person, teenager.
I don't know.
The formidable years.
I think like the weirdest one that like is still like going pretty strong. The lead singer of Soul Asylum.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I said that thinking I knew what he looked like, and I can't conjure up what he looks like.
Yeah, he's like.
Okay.
He still does it for me, and that was like a weird teenage thing. Yeah.
It's very, very time specific.
Yeah.
Soul Asylum.
Yeah, like the 90s, like that. Like he really stuck in there. Like I met him a few years ago, so that kind of like.
Oh, yep.
Reignited that. Like.
That'll do it. All right, we'll wrap it up this one. If you could do anything, what would you do? Like for a living?
Oh. I would write and illustrate children's books.
That's great. You should do that.
Yeah, trying.
All right. That was awesome. Thanks for doing the show.
Yep.